Download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Tonight, death knell. The president pledges to implement capital punishment within 2 months. Hands off. Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka voices strong objections on international influence on Sri Lanka's internal affairs. Back in the seat. Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira reveals as to why he removed the Director General of Customs despite reinstating her later. ATM scam unravelled. 3 persons arrested over fraudulent money skimming scam as the central bank calls ATM users to exercise caution. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 6th of February 2019.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very good evening and a warm welcome to First at 9. Joining you tonight on First at 9, I'm Indivari Amwatha. We begin with their top stories tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena was present in Parliament today and made it a point to touch on the proliferation of drugs in the country, along with his pledge to implement capital punishment to those who continue racketeering from within prison walls. He insisted that nothing will deter him from following through on that pledge, and the public can expect its implementation within a period of 2 months. Now, the head of state also spoke about the alleged plot to assassinate him and the former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, stating that the Criminal Investigations Department allegedly recorded a statement from him.
A parliamentarian has inquired as to why I did not attend the parliamentary session in 3 months in accordance with the constitution. I committed that mistake and I express my regret. Illegal narcotics are spreading all over the country. I have already asked for a list of those who are subjected to capital punishment by a court for engaging in narcotics racketeering even after being imprisoned. Even this list got delayed in reaching me, and some documents could not be found due to the powers of the racketeers. I say with great authority that Valikada prison is the headquarters of illegal narcotics in the country. Based on the reports we already have, we will be able to implement capital punishment within 2 months, and I have taken stern decision to implement this whatever the objections may be. After transferring the uncontrollable prisoners of the Valikada prison to Busa, we decided to use STF personnel for security. However, the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, which is supposed to provide Sri Lankans protection, questions the chief of the STF as to who asked to deploy STF personnel to Busa and why. Who does the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission represent? After I came to Parliament today, Minister Rishad told me now since police is under me, allegations into my assassination plot could be probed easily. The CID is conducting investigations well regarding the assassination plot on me and Gotabaya Rajapaksa. After I started overseeing the police, the investigations in that regard have become efficient. They even recorded a statement from me about 4 days ago, which was required to finalize the investigations. I hope the country will get to know who are involved in the matter in about a week or so after CID hands over the report to the Attorney General. I believe he will take the necessary steps from that point onwards. In the meantime, parliamentarians of the governing party has decided to take the UNP's proposal to increase the number of ministerial portfolios for debate tomorrow.
Well, as we all know by now, following the decision by Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira, PSM Charles was reinstated as the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs last night after a week-long trade union action by customs trade unions, which came to an end also yesterday. Charles took office today after holding a media briefing alongside the Minister of Finance. Moving to give reasons as to why Charles was removed as the Director General of Customs, Minister Mangala Samaravira today pointed to a lack of action from her part to address fraud within the department.
Someone stronger than this guy. You want someone stronger?
No, I felt that there should be some little more discipline, but that was going to create far more problems that it could solve. I have confidence that Mrs. Charles will do her best to bring the crooks to book. You will see once we give you the reports who the real masterminds behind all this. This is just when, when you're going somewhere, someone picks your pocket and then you turn around to run behind him and then he suddenly runs behind you saying pickpocket, pickpocket. So the whole world thinks that you're the pickpocket.
Sri Lanka Customs managed a total sum of 788 billion rupees in tax revenue during the financial year of 2015, with the amount increasing to 831 billion rupees in 2016. Last year, the tax revenue earned by Sri Lanka Customs stood at 921 billion rupees. Despite these revenue earnings, however, Department of Customs failed to achieve government's ambitious target of 1.68 trillion rupees in tax revenue. During today's media briefing, Minister of Finance Mangala Samaraweera partly attributed this failure to the depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee by over 15% during the last 6 months of 2018. He pointed out that while the overall imports grew by 8.3% compared to 2017, the customs revenue had only grown by 1.4%. Custom imports duty, the primary border tax revenue, meanwhile, had declined by 28.5% during the latter half of last year.
Can you explain why the customs could not achieve the target, the revenue target, over 1 billion?
Point is, one never reaches a target 100%. Now, some of the variations in the vehicle taxes and all that may have helped, but that still, as you rightly said, does not account for such a large amount. But it still does not. This is why I'm saying the leakage is huge. Even in terms of percentages, 13% looks rather harmless. In terms of rupees, it's huge. So some of these sections resist even modern technology. We are paying so much that we started the new year, 14th of January. We paid $1,640 million, and now we have to pay about another 800 million during the course of this year.
There are a lot of things to need to be reformed and systemized. That's what we started several things, and Honorable Minister has given the approval to have a drive-through scanner. Will be operated in the first week of March, and we have gone for the automation, total automation. We are waiting for the approval to automation and the paperless trade, where the system can eliminate all kind of leakage and the manipulation and the fraudulent activities. Even though we have started so many investigations, I have already sent the primary report of the Honorable Minister. Within another 2 months' time, we can give full investigation report, because this is the biggest department operating for a long time. I need little time to correct and bring it in the reform portion.
Well, prominent business leader Kishore Gomez was officially appointed chairman of both Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority this afternoon, an appointment that was expected earlier. The appointment of heads to key tourism bodies, which was originally scheduled to take place on the 29th of January, was put off due to a last-minute intervention by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Well, to discuss more, we've invited to our studios this prominent corporate leader who resigned from his long-standing career, a long stint at your previous place to take up. We didn't know what it was. I think the last question, last time I spoke to you during your resignation was, why? What are you trying to do next? But first, welcome to Studio 24.
Thank you. Thank you.
We all wanted to know what your next step would be, and here you are, you've been appointed, but this appointment was expected on the 29th of January. We were all there, but alongside you there was another veteran industry personality who was to be appointed, but I suppose the Prime Minister changed his mind, and now you have been appointed a chairman of both these bodies. It's I think, a new change to the industry itself, because we've been seeing two separate individuals heading these two bodies, Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority and the Sri Lanka Promotion Bureau.
Right. No, I mean, firstly, I'm excited about the opportunity in the reason why I stepped down from a multinational is to be able to better serve the country. And that's something I've been very, very, vocal about. And when this opportunity came my way, in fact, I should say that it's the industry that, basically approached me, who tested the waters. After I headed the Tourism Awards 2018, and then during that process, a lot of stakeholders got to know about what I think and what my vision is for the country, my abilities, all of that. So to cut a long story short, I mean that was the turning point. So few big hoteliers approached me and wanted me to seriously consider this opportunity. So initially, I had no rational reason to accept the position, given my background and what I've been doing for the past 3 decades. But then I gave it some serious thought. I just looked at myself and asked myself as to what I want to achieve in life. And I think I've shared this before as well. It's not for me anymore. It's for my country and for my own people. So when I looked at the value of the opportunity from an economic standpoint and a social standpoint, I thought, wow, this is the opportunity where I can use all the experience and skills I've gained over the years to convert that into commercial, real commercial value for the country. Right. So obviously, with that little discussion I've been having with the industry stakeholders, ministry obviously, contacted me, and then I had a few rounds of, discussions with them. And then, once everything was, very clearly understood, I had no hesitation in accepting this challenge, because I know for sure that I'll be able to sort of do a very good job in order to take tourism to the next level in the very.
Right. I think your previous company, you were there for some 18 years
as the CEO.
As the CEO, yes. And then 3 decades, if I'm not mistaken, is.
Well, 2 decades at Chevron, and with the previous employer,
right.
another
right.
11 years.
And from a less known entity, you've turned around that into a household name. Sure. But are we to expect this from Sri Lanka tourism? Of course, that's your vision. But Sri Lanka tourism has constantly been marred by a lot of controversy, not in terms of politics, but because we've been changing our policy constantly. We have been changing our taglines at a certain point, and then our policy direction in terms of how we market Sri Lanka to the rest of the world. But now it all falls under your purview.
Sure. Oh, well, I mean, you talked about a few issues, and the ride has been, not very smooth. It has been kind of turbulent. But having said that, tourism has progressed, from 500 tourists in 2009 to 2.3 million tourists in 2018. But the growth has been on a lower base, so therefore we have no reason as a country to be happy with 2.3 million. I guess the potential is enormous, it's huge. So that's what we should be focusing on. So my, we would be to forget about all the bad things that have happened in the past, be it regulatory things, policy matters, whatever, and look forward. So for me to be able to deliver results, I mean, that should be one thing that should happen, properly and acutely, and that's everyone coming together, sharing one vision, and working on one set of strategies.
Will that be possible?
Well, I think it is possible. With your communication, everyone needs to understand as to what each one's role is, and what each one's role can finally achieve for the country. From a industry development standpoint, thereby growing the country's economy. So if you just pull in different directions, I don't think we'll be able to go anywhere, and finally it's the country that will get defeated. And I don't think any true Sri Lankan would want to see the country losing. I mean, all of us want the country to progress, and for 21.5 million people to have a positive impact on their lives. So if you well communicate it in the hearts and minds of all stakeholders, which I'm very, very keen to do, right. I think we should be able to drive it through.
Finally, you were speaking about a strategy, bringing everyone together. What is your strategy? What will you bring out in order to bring this industry together? Because we're talking about the SME sector that is involved, also an informal sector that the ministry has constantly attempted to bring in to the formal sector. Then again, we're talking about high-end tourists and our destinations that do not have proper facilities to date, and then marketing and a proper marketing campaign.
Right. So there are a few issues which you got to iron out. But in terms of vision and strategy and execution plan, there is a blueprint, right? There is a strategic plan the minister has already put together, which was put together by a panel of experts, and that document very clearly explains as to where we are heading and how to head towards your goal. So that's there. So my role would be
so you would stick to that.
No,
strategy.
well, I will certainly take a look at it. Anything good that has delivered results, there will not be any rational reason to change. So I will certainly together with my team drive that through. But at the same time, if there are areas where changes are needed, I will not be hesitant to make those changes again with the consent of all concerned. And then what are some of the new things that we got to sort of keep adding in order to sort of elevate the level, and those would be added on as well. So it would be, in my view at this point of time, a refreshed plan, and then that would be my short term. And when it comes to medium and long term, well, who knows? We will probably have a plan, that can take us to 5 million, 6 million, level of tourists over the next couple of years' time.
Right, on that positive note, I wish you all the very best to drive Sri Lankan tourism
much
towards that goal. Thank you for joining us here on First at 9.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, moving on to other local news, with the arrest of the notorious underworld kingpin Markandure Madhush, what most have been wondering is what's next. Will the drug lord be brought to Sri Lanka, or will legal proceedings be triggered by the United Arab Emirates? State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena today revealed that despite the news of Madhush's arrest being reported, the matter is yet to be communicated to Sri Lanka through diplomatic channels. Meanwhile, speaking to Other Derana 24, attorney at law Thisya Veeragoda was of the view that any attempts to extradite the suspect to Sri Lanka could be a lengthy process.
Underworld kingpin Markandure Madhush, who was in self-imposed exile abroad owing to underworld affiliations, was arrested in Dubai yesterday. The arrest was made during a party at a hotel in Dubai, and the police officers also arrested 20 other suspects, including well-known singer Amal Pereira and his son. Reports said that police also seized a stash of drugs from the possession of the suspects. Meanwhile, singer Amal Pereira's brother, Sohan Pereira, speaking to Other Derana 24, said that they went to Dubai to perform in a musical show as part of his job, and expressed belief that his brother would never have led his own son down a dark alley. Meanwhile, President of the Singers Association, Kirti Pasquale, called on the Sri Lankan government to ensure that the artists are brought to Sri Lankan soil and conduct the necessary legal proceedings. He also made a plea not to label them guilty, for they should remain innocent until proven otherwise. In the meantime, State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardena had this to say about the processes ahead.
Madhush
was arrested in Dubai, but we are not diplomatically informed of it yet. We hope that we will be able to discuss with the Dubai government and make future arrangements, following which we can take necessary steps. Attorney at law Thisya Veeragoda says that despite Sri Lanka inking an extradition treaty with the United Arab Emirates, the subject minister is yet to gazette it.
A person, when he is to be extradited, there is a particular procedure. The requesting state will make a request, and the receiving state will have to decide whether that person is to be arrested and committed in respect of extradition, and thereafter that person concerned has the right to make an application not to extradite him, and in that process he could take up various objections to his extradition. He can also oppose extradition if the penalty that is imposed in the requesting state is greater than the penalty that he would be exposed to in the receiving state, then he could make a case against extradition. For example, if the receiving state has the penalty of a life imprisonment, whereas the requesting state has the penalty of death by hanging or such other form, then one could oppose such extradition on the basis that his life is in danger. But at the end of the day, it is a judicial process. The receiving state's court will have to decide whether the person is to be extradited or not. And depending on the final outcome, person may or may not be extradited. It's not like you can make a request today and tomorrow that person can be brought down. That process might take some time.
The arrest of Markanduray Madhush became a hot topic during today's parliamentary sitting. Here's a look as to what the members of the House had to say about this.
උඩු සහ මිනිමැරුම් වලට චෝදනා එල්ල වෙලා තිබෙන මාකන්දුරේ මදුෂ් කියන පුද්ගලයා අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නට හැකියාව ලැබිලා තිබෙනවා.
We were able to somehow arrest Markanduray Madhush, who is accused of illegal drug ventures and murders. So if he can be arrested with the help of police in Dubai, what were the action taken to arrest Udayanga Veeratunga, Arjuna Mahendran and Jaliya Wickramasuriya?
සඳහා වෙච්ච ක්‍රියාමාර්ග මොනවද?
සම්පූර්ණයෙන් වාර්තාව ලබා දෙන්නම්. ඒක ඉල්ලීම් කරාට ඒ රටවල උසාවියට පුළුවන් අන්තිම
I can produce the full report here. Although we do make official requests, courts in these countries can make last-minute rulings. There are legal action required to be taken in Dubai authorities against Markanduray Madhush as well.
ඊට පස්සෙත් නීතිමය පියවර ඩුබායි වල ගන්න තිබෙනවා.
එක්සත් අරාබි එමිරාජ්‍යයේ වඩාත්ම විකිරණ පුවත්පත වෙන කලිජ් ටයිම්ස් අද පත්තරේ ඉතා
A very controversial piece of news was reported in UAE's daily newspaper, Khalij Times, in which it said that a diplomat with a Sri Lankan passport was also arrested with Markanduray Madhush. We'd like to know from the leader of the House as to who this diplomat was. It was heavily circulated in social media that legal action must be taken against the accused in foreign countries instead of bringing them over here. The youth in Sri Lanka believe that if the accused are brought here, they will get released soon because of the loopholes in our legal system. Most of them engage in legal activities and then flee the country. Our legal system is unable to keep them here. Sometimes, those who are released on bail leave the country never to return. And also, what is government's plan to arrest those who've left the country after looting the money from the poor?
The fact is there is a difference between offenders and suspects. When it comes to suspects, this transfer of offenders law doesn't apply. It's an extradition law. The question of extradition is postulated on certain principles. You must first have an extradition treaty. Then you have to lodge a red notice with the Interpol. The Interpol has to inform the recipient state or the state in which the so-called suspect is absconding. It is up to that state to do the law enforcement there and then inform the receiving state and then extradite the suspect. Responsible government, the certain actions that need to be taken have been taken. If he has violated bail conditions and has not returned, and if there is a warrant out for him, then that process has to take place. That process has begun. So let us wait until the recipient state fulfills their obligations and then informs the Interpol accordingly.
And we take a short commercial break. We'll be back with your business news and more local, international and entertainment news after this short break.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Welcome back. You're joining First at 9. Well, the automated teller machine users across Sri Lanka were taken aback recently due to social media reports of ATM skimming activities, which prompted the Payment Card Industry Association of Sri Lanka and the Sri Lanka Banks Association to issue a joint statement yesterday, urging the public to inform their respective banks immediately in the event of any suspicious transaction noticed in their bank accounts. Now, the statement also came in the wake of complaints from some customers that their savings or current accounts were debited through fraudulent ATM withdrawals. While the two associations asserted that fraudulent withdrawals of funds via ATM skimming is being investigated, they urged the public and customers to maintain greater vigilance. In the meantime, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, in a notice today, said that customers are required to use EMV-enabled payment cards, which carry an electronic chip which is visible on the card, in order to strengthen the security of ATM transactions against any such criminal activities. The Criminal Investigations Department began investigations into reports of a scam carried out through ATM skimming activities, where cloned cards had been created to make fraudulent withdrawals from bank accounts. 2 Chinese nationals and a Romanian were arrested in connection with such fraudulent activities, and also seized 200 fake debit and credit cards, 2 card reading machines, along with 1.2 million rupees in cash from their possession. In a joint statement, the Payment Card Industry Association of Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka Banks Association said that upon receiving customer complaints, member banks took prompt action, adding that ATM networks and cards are now safe for transactions. Meanwhile, the central bank today said that efforts of banks, payment card issuers, acquirers and regulators need to be supported and recognized by customers in order to safeguard any payment system, and urged the usage of EMV-enabled payment cards which carry an electronic chip. The public is also advised to subscribe for the SMS transaction alert facility through their respective banks.
We have been informed by several banks during the last couple of days that there had been fraudulent transactions happened using some of the very few ATMs, using ATM cards, where these fraudsters have connected a small device where you enter the ATM card in an ATM machine, and also they have connected a small camera. Using that, they have captured the data in the card, as well as from the camera they have captured the PIN code, and then they take that device away and manufacture fraudulent cards, and they use these cards to withdraw cash from those cardholders' accounts. So immediately when the customers complain to the banks actually cancel those cards, so any further financial transaction cannot be done using those cards. So banks have taken precautions in that direction. The main thing for the general public is to be vigilant when they visit an ATM, to see whether there are any unusual equipment that is connected to the ATMs, and if they see any such suspecting person, they should immediately inform the police or the security personnel at the bank. Third thing is, actually the most important thing is, every customer who has a bank account must register for the SMS alert service, so that even if somebody else tries to withdraw funds from their accounts, they get alerted from the bank, and then if there's a fraudulent transaction, they can immediately contact the bank and cancel the card. We have also been made aware that this has been carried out by several foreign nationals, and we got information that one person has already been arrested by the police. General public doesn't need to panic, because the situation is currently under control.
Well, at the Colombo Stock Exchange, the all-share price index fell 0.41% or 24.24 points to 5,957.41, while the more liquid S&P SL20 index was down 0.55% or 16.87 points to 3,057.75, while market turnover was a mere 249.2 million rupees. And the Sri Lankan rupee, the local currency, closed stronger at 178.25 to 45 cents against the US dollar in the spot market, while bond yields were up and stocks closed 0.41%. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee exchanged against other major currencies. Taking you back to local news, Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka Cheng Xiaoyang today emphatically opposed international influences on Sri Lanka's internal affairs. The Chinese ambassador called on the two chief prelates of the Malvatta and Askiriya chapters in Kandy today and insisted that Sri Lanka's people will make the best decisions for themselves. The ambassador was also positive on the Central Expressway, with reports emerging of a request made by the Sri Lankan government over funding for the project.
China's ambassador to Sri Lanka, Cheng Shizhuan, visited the temple of the sacred tooth relic in Kandy today and engaged in religious observances. The Chinese ambassador then met with the chief prelate of the Malvatta chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera, at the Malvatta temple. He later met with the chief prelate of the Askiriya chapter, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera, at the Askiriya temple. The Chinese ambassador then responded to questions raised by journalists. Discussions are still underway with the Sri Lankan government regarding the expressway to Kandy. We believe that there will be good news in the near future.
විවිධ රටවල ජාත්‍යන්තරයෙන් විශේෂයෙන් යුරෝපීය රටවලින් අපේ රටේ යම් දේශපාලන ප්‍රශ්න වලට බලපෑම් එල්ල වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඔබතුමාගේ චීන රජයේ නියෝජිතය වශයෙන් ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඔබතුමාගේ මතය මොකක්ද?
中国呢就是跟斯里兰卡
Sri Lanka and China share a very honest and deeper friendship. We believe that in these matters of internal political issues, Sri Lanka's political parties as well as its citizens will be able to make the best decisions for themselves. The principle of the Chinese government is not to involve in Sri Lanka's internal matters. At the same time, we are strongly against foreign influences on Sri Lanka's internal matters. We believe that the fate of a country lies in the hands of its people, and that is why we think Sri Lankan citizens will make the best decisions for themselves.
我们国与国交往的一个基础。
We'll find out what's happening overseas after this short break. To stay with us.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Welcome back. Well, in news overseas, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced in his State of the Union speech that he will hold a second nuclear summit with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un this month, while giving himself credit for averting a major war on the Korean Peninsula. The U.S. President has said the meeting will be held in Vietnam from February 27th to the 28th. Well, for the first time in 30 years, this year's Oscars will be held without an official host. The head of ABC Entertainment, which airs the Academy Awards ceremony, has said it would instead highlight celebrities presenting the trophies. Reports had suggested the broadcaster was struggling to fill the role, one of the toughest in U.S. show business, after comedian Kevin Hart pulled out of hosting the ceremony in December following a controversy over some of his old homophobic tweets. Well, in sports, French club Nantes have allegedly demanded payment from English Premier League football club Cardiff City over £15 million transfer of Emiliano Sala. Sala, along with pilot David Ibbotson, was on board the Piper Malibu N264DB, which lost radar contact near Guernsey on the 21st of January. Cardiff have withheld the first scheduled payment until they're satisfied with the documentation. And before we end tonight's edition of First at 9, we take you to Jetavana, which is a stupa or Buddhist monument located in the ruins of Jetavana Monastery in the World Heritage City of Anuradhapura. And if you did miss any of our stories tonight, do log on to www.otherderana.lk. Thank you for joining us. I'm Indiveri Amwa. Good night.